Hello everyone and welcome back to Network 27. I'm Alderman Walter Burnett, Alderman of the 27th Ward. First of all, I want to thank everyone who's helping us to put the show together. We have a lot of exciting things going on in this month of August. August the 25th, as you all know, is our Stay in School picnic. Please everyone, call our office to find out where the buses are going to be to pick people up. We try and pick folks up from the schools, which are neutral areas. Just to let you know, if you put your child on a bus, we're not responsible for them. It's up to you to watch your children and make sure they get back on the bus to come back home. Because we're running around doing everything. I'd like to thank all of the volunteers and all of the contributors who help us to put the picnic together. As you all know, we give out school supplies at the picnic. There's entertainment, there's food, there's bingos for the seniors. We raffle off a couple of bikes. So there's a lot of things going on. There's about 5,000 people, and we couldn't do it without all of the help of the volunteers. We want to thank the Salvation Army for all of their help. They help us set up early in the morning. We'd like to thank everyone that's involved. On August the 17th, we're actually having the stepper set, and we're having our contest over at the Salvation Army. Now, before I finish that, the picnic is at Union Park. Call our office at 432-1995 for more information. At the Salvation Army on the 800 block of Christiana, we're having our stepper set. That Friday, I think it's from 8 to 12. First prize is $1,000. Second prize is $500. Third and fourth is $250. If you don't want to step and get in the contest, you need to come and see these guys do their magic, man. I mean, I'm going just so, not only because it's my event, but I'm going to pick me up some moves, man, so I can give me some new stepping moves. So you guys need to come. It's going to be a good time. As you all know, we do this stepping set to support the people who are recovering from drugs and alcohol. So it's a clean and sober stepper set. And if anybody want to donate anything, you can donate to the Salvation Army. We really appreciate all the things that they do. We're helping the folks in our community to get their lives back on track. Also, on August the 16th, we call this the double nickel for myself, is when I become 55. You don't have to tell everybody, but I become 55 on August 16th. I'm having a birthday party. In order to make all these things happen, we had to raise money. So for the picnic, we have a non-for-profit called Chicago Neighbors United. At my birthday party, which is going to be held at August the 16th, I think it's from 5 to 7 or 8. I have a late we stay there. It's going to be at the Goose Island Special Events. You can find out more information at my office. You should get on our email list. You can call our office and give us your email address, and we'll email you all of these things that we have going on. Our office number is 312-432-1995. Today, ladies and gentlemen, being right before we get ready to go back to school in August, we're going to be talking about a new school, not a new school, but two new schools, or two schools that are becoming new together that is opening up in our ward. Some of you may or may not know that Jenner School and Ogden School, both on the north side of the city, are merging together. You have folks from different economical backgrounds, some different ethnicity in these communities. They're coming together, and that couldn't have been done if it were not for great people with good hearts and with the foresight to bring folks together in our community. So I'd like to introduce you to several people from our ward and from our community, and people who have helped with this process, who's involved with this, so they can tell us a little more about what's going on with the Jenner-Ogden merger. And I think this is the first merger of its kind. I don't know if it's just in the city of Chicago, but maybe in the state or the country. I'm not sure. But first of all, I have with us Michelle
Hi, Alderman. Thank you so much.
Michelle, tell me your last name again. I didn't want to mess it up.
Dreczynski.
Dreczynski. Okay, Michelle Dreczynski. Michelle actually lives here on the near north side in the near north community. Michelle is very active in this, and we'll tell you about what Michelle had, her involvement with this in a moment. Thank you very much for coming on to the show. We also have Sharon Wheeler. Sharon Wheeler is a director for the Near North Unity program. And Sharon actually lives in the neighborhood also.
I do.
She was very active with this this merger, and we want to thank her very much. And also we have Suzanne Carrier
Campion. Yep.
Carrier Campion. And Suzanne actually works with Next Level. Next Level is a consultant group which was hired to help to bring this merger together. They had to get some things together before we could even get folks to consider what was happening with this. And then also we have Reverend Randall Blakey. Reverend Blakey is the pastor of LaSalle Street Church.
Executive pastor.
Executive pastor, excuse me. Executive pastor of LaSalle Street Church, and also the executive director
of the Near North Unity.
Of the Near North Unity program. And I apologize. Sharon is the program manager.
I was getting a little bump
You
up
was getting
there.
a bump up.
I was gonna let it ride.
I see you didn't say nothing.
You didn't give me executive director.
I gave you director, right?
Right.
Okay, anyway. So we want to thank Reverend Blakey. You know, some of you you all know LaSalle Street Church is on the near north side. LaSalle Street Church has been involved with innovating changes in our community, with creating some new organizations in our neighborhood. One that they got Cabrini Green Legal Aid come from LaSalle Street Church, and you know, which is a premier organization in the city of Chicago now that helps folks to clean up their records, save them from being evicted, and a myriad of other things. So that all came from LaSalle Street Church. And there's been several other organizations that have come from LaSalle Street Church that started right in this neighborhood. And we really appreciate everything that they do. But it's not a show about LaSalle Street Church. This is actually a show about Jenner School. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know you noticed that we are out here in a park. We're in Seward Park. We're in the shadows of former Bird School, which I graduated from, which is now Immaculate Conception, and also Jenner School, or I don't know if I should call it former Jenner School or Jenner School, but Jenner School. And so we're in the middle of both schools, and it's only fitting that we're out here on a beautiful day like this talking about this. So guys, where should we start on talking about this merger? So I know everyone, I was saying earlier, we all have our different perspectives, you know, how these things came about. Who wants to start out?
I can start out.
Okay.
So Alderman, at the time that this opportunity came to us, the near north side and the residents of the near north side were experiencing challenges from an educational standpoint of view. The challenges were the fact that Jenner at that particular time was under-enrolled and Ogden was over-enrolled. And so it presented challenges not only for Ogden and the population of kids that were attending Ogden, but also for Jenner. Jenner, if there wasn't a opportunity created, or if there wasn't a solution to come forth, Jenner, quite frankly, just would have closed. They would have closed Jenner School. And that's where Michelle Dreczynski comes in. Michelle is the committee chairperson of the Youth and Families Committee of the Near North Unity program. And Michelle had the idea, well, if one school is under-enrolled and the other school is over-enrolled, why don't we just merge the two schools? Not only would it improve the educational equity in the community, but it would also offer the opportunity for there to be cross-cultural learning, something that is needed not only in the city of Chicago, but throughout our country. And we began to just think about and discuss and debate that idea. Michelle then took that idea to the two principals and had a conversation with them. Principal Croston at the time was at Jenner, Principal Byer was at Ogden, and they took a liking to the idea. No one thought that it could actually happen at first, but the conversation started, and this was in 2015. This is in 2015 when the conversation started, and when it started, it just slowly but surely gained the type of momentum that got us to this point in 2018, where we received a unanimous vote on February 28th of 2018 from the CPS board, the Chicago Public School Board of Education, where they voted unanimously to make this merger, or to approve this merger. And so I'll turn it over to Michelle so she can give you some of the details of what that experience and what that process was like.
I just would like to start off by saying one person can make a difference. So even if you think you can't make a difference, try to look at your community and think about all the things that you see there and see if what you're seeing is what you want to see, and if it's not, you could actually change it. And that was the case with the Ogden-Jenner merger. I would walk right through this park every day with my little boy, who was in pre-K at the time, and I would see the Jenner school, and I'd think to myself, why is it I don't send my own child to Jenner? And there were a lot of reasons. A long time ago, the school's ratings were not very good. The behavior I saw maybe wasn't what I would think teachers should have for students. But rather than judge the people that were there, I thought, well, maybe there's a reason why all this is happening, and maybe no one even knows that this is occurring. So I started out to ask myself, what could I do as an individual to change the narrative of this school, where the kids seemed like they were really happy, but sometimes it seemed like they might not have the advantages that my own son had. So I started writing letters to CPS, and over the course of a couple years, those letters, they didn't really get answered effectively, but they did get answers back and forth. And after getting some answers back and forth, I went to the Near North Unity program and saw that they were this amazing community organization, and asked them for their help, and asked them if they would be interested in helping bring about some change and get people to look at what was going on at the Jenner School, because there's so many young kids there that seemed like they had so much potential, and they would never have a chance to achieve that potential if somebody didn't intervene on their behalf. So after going to the Near North Unity program, we worked with CPS, and CPS actually came around and thought, like, wow, we didn't actually realize that community members were seeing this, and community members felt the way they did about this school. And once they realized that the community really was behind the school and really felt the way they did, we began a narrative, I guess you would say, and a conversation that would lead to this merger. And there were lots of steps along the way. There were over 2,000 hours of community meetings. There was, Susan over here did an amazing job at putting together empirical research that basically validated what we all knew. Integration is the only solution that's been proven empirically to show that it would reduce the racial gap, the racial achievement gap among students. And there was lots of empirical research and a lot of academic research that basically backed up what this merger could accomplish. So that's really, I feel like I'm the catalyst in some ways. Like, one person can make a difference, but it takes a village to change what actually can happen. So this is only part of the village. There are probably hundreds of people that are in this village that actually worked really hard over the course of many years to help this change come about.
So Michelle, first of all, thank you for planting those seeds and being determined and never giving up. Just from my experience working with you as an alderman, I know you keep repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again until you get a response,
Yeah.
right? And you're very vocal about it, and it seemed like you care about justice and fairness. So we appreciate all of your efforts. So, I always say we all have different perspectives on it. So when this came to me, I know you had been mentioning, so you mentioned, about this school, you mentioned about Salazar, right?
Yes.
You mentioned about wells. You know, you're concerned about all the schools, right? So I hear from you about the schools all the time. But then all of a sudden I get this visit from both of the principals, right? You know, a black principal and a white principal, right? A principal from Jenner and a principal from Ogden. And they say, hey, Alderman, can we meet with you? I said, sure. So they both come into my office and they sit down and they say, you know, how about since Jenner is losing population and Ogden is overpopulated and have a waiting list, how about if we merge the two schools? And, you know, and I sat there and I say, I don't have a problem with that, right? As long as the young people from Jenner don't lose in the process. Mm-hmm. But also I was like, you know, to Dr. Blair, Principal Blair, Beyer, Principal Beyer, I said, so how you gonna get your folks, you know, to, how you gonna get the folks from Ogden to go along with this? Are they gonna, you know, allow for their children to go to school with the kids from Jenner? Just thinking about, you know, how people think and some of the stereotypes and all of those different things, even though the near north side is very diverse economically and ethnically. Over here, just in the Cabrini Green area, the former Cabrini Green area, is very diverse ethnically and economically. So there's a lot of people around here now. And I said, go ahead, let's try it. If you all want to try it, I'll support it. Go ahead. They said, well, will you come with us to CPS and meet with Janice Jackson about it, right? And I said, sure. So later on, we set up a meeting to go down to CPS, meet with Janice. You know, at that time, she was very vague about whether she supports it or not. She immediately had the same concern that I had to make sure that the kids from Jenner don't get the short end of the stick, right? Because of, you know, uply mobile parents, you know, very involved and very vocal and all those things. So she wanted to make sure that the Jenner kids, the low income kids, are incorporated in the school in a right and just way. And so we both had the same concerns. So she, you know, of course, with Ogden being in another ward, actually connected to two other wards, which is the 2nd Ward and the 42nd Ward. Her politically, first thing she would say is, have you talked to the other aldermen? And what do they think, right? Well, I was like, well, I haven't talked to them. I'm like, you guys need to go and talk to them. And they say, we will. We will go and talk to them. And then, you know, the other question is, how do both of your parents feel about it? And or both of your LSCs, local school councils, feel about it. So I guess all of you all got together and went back to the table and started having meetings with the different LSCs. Because, you know, even though Jenner had a lower population, but you still have folks here who has a lot of pride. You know, most parents and folks that live around here, you know, most of the kids, not only did their parents go to Jenner, their grandparents go to Jenner, and in some instances, their great-grandparents went to Jenner. You know, so it was, you know, so they were a little concerned at first too, and rightfully so, because, you know, one thing they would be concerned about is somebody just coming and taking a school, right? And I think the folks in this community, and that was the concern, folks in this community with the tearing down of public housing and all of those things, you know, you had to be sensitive to people feeling like folks taking things from them, right? And so you know, it's like a potentially very sensitive venture to get into. And from there, what happened?
So from there, Alderman, from the meeting that you had with the two principals, the principals came back to the Near North Unity program, and we said, you know what, we probably need to set up a meeting with Frank Clark, who was the president of the Chicago Public School Board. And we set up that meeting. And
see, I didn't even know about that, but go ahead.
Yeah, we set up that meeting, but we set up that meeting in the context of the village that Michelle spoke of. From a moral standpoint of view, we knew, meaning LaSalle Street Church, me as a pastor, and Rabbi Limmer as a rabbi at Chicago Sinai.
So you got a rabbi involved.
We got a rabbi involved because he's part of the village, and the village had to be the strength that was going to push this across the finish line.
So the rabbi is more connected from the Ogden part, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct.
So we got so Jenner has the pastor and Ogden has the rabbi, and they both come together.
Exactly, and we assembled not only he and I, but we assembled members from the community, Sharon and a few other members from the community, and we went to meet with Mr. Clark. And Mr. Clark gave us we presented our case to him, and he gave us some very clear instructions. He told us very clearly two things. Number one, that this had to be a community-led effort. It had to be a community-led effort. It just couldn't be just us people at the table. Those of us that thought that this was a good idea. We had to galvanize the community, and so this had to be a community effort. And then the second thing that he told us is that we had to be clearly aware of all of our reasonable opposition. All of the reasonable opposition, because we had to be able to respond to every reasonable person that came with resistance. And we had to know what that resistance was. We had to be sensitive to it, and we had to have an answer for it. And from there, we went back and began to organize, if you will, the community.
I was going to share, so Near North Unity Program has a monthly meeting the last Monday of every month, and we used that forum. We put the merger possibility on the agenda, and in those meetings we had 200 plus people come out from the community to share their concerns, to share their thoughts. We had parents speak, and
parents from both Jenner and Ogden.
From both Jenner and Ogden speak, and really the message was whatever is best for the kids. And it was out of those meetings that we realized that we needed to form a steering committee of the entire community of the village that Michelle spoke about, and that's where Michelle really had the idea to say, who are the stakeholders that are currently working in both schools? And so Chicago Congregation Sinai is one of those stakeholders that works both in Ogden and in Jenner.
Okay.
So they were
they
were a great resource for us and played a really big role, which is how Rabbi Limmer and Pastor Blakey kind of became the face of the merger.
Fantastic. So what made you all go to next level?
Well, the board had, not the board, we knew that the community could do its part, right? But if this was going to cross the finish line, this had to be presented in a scholarly manner, and it had to be presented with data. And that data had to be able to support the merging of these schools. And so we knew that we had to hire some consultants because it was outside of our realm of knowledge to put this data together. So we knew we had to hire some consultants. We vetted about maybe 5 or 6 consulting agencies. And Next Level was one of those agencies. And when we sat down with Next Level and we met their team, we were thoroughly convinced that Next Level was the team that we needed to go with. And so Suzanne Campion began to have meetings, not only with Rabbi Limmer and I, but with members of the community. And I'll turn it over to Suzanne so that she can.
So how did y'all pay for this?
We solicited funds from Chicago Community Trust. We solicited funds from LISC, the Local Initiative Support Corporation, and just from donors across the city who felt that this was the best and the right direction to go in, and people just began to give money, enough money in order for us to pay the consultants.
So both aldermen on the other side and myself, when you talk about opposition, we heard opposition, right? Mm-hmm. I heard opposition from my ward because, quite as it's kept, Ogden's boundaries go beyond Cabrini Green on the other side of the river, right. Which is in my ward, mm-hmm. right? And so I had several residents from over there to come to me and had apprehension, right? And I'm sure, I know that the other aldermen had the same thing. right? And at some of those LSC meetings, people were very verbal about it, right? And a lot of it was about fear, right? First of all, and folks was even trying to come to me and say things like, we would raise money for Jenner School. We would give them money if they don't merge with Ogden, right? I mean, they would literally come to my office and tell me they would raise money for Jenner and give them whatever they want as long as they don't merge with Ogden. And, you know, and I was like, you know, that sounds interesting. So go ahead, Suzanne.
Thank you. So when we were brought in and talked to the steering committee, the one thing that was very important to us as very data-driven consultants is that we would need to start with a clean slate and look at potential solutions for the under-enrollment at Jenner and the over-enrollment at Ogden with a fresh eye and really open the lens to different options so that wherever we arrived as far as our recommendation was really pure and was not biased by earlier desires or conclusions that were drawn. And the steering committee had to really agree to that starting point. And in fact, there were people on the steering committee, one in particular who had to step off because she had to realize that we were not going to be promoting the merger from the start. So we really did take a very hard look at the facts around both schools, what was driving under-enrollment, what was driving over-enrollment, what could be driving future enrollment at both schools. So we looked at housing trends in both communities. We talked to CHA, we talked to CPS, we talked to law enforcement officials to understand crime trends. We talked to builders, we talked to a lot of community people. So we looked at it from a community standpoint. Most importantly, we spent a lot of time talking to parents, teachers, community members, anybody we could get into a room to talk to us about what they thought about a potential merger and other potential solutions. And what we found, excuse me, is the vast majority of people were in favor of merging the schools. They realized that the kids would benefit. All the kids would benefit. But there were always caveats. There were always conditions, which we felt were pretty reasonable. We also, and I'll come back to that in a minute, we also did research that Michelle referenced around racial and socioeconomic integration and how all kids benefit. And the earlier you can bring kids together from different areas of the city or different backgrounds, the more they benefit long term. And in fact, employers and colleges want kids who have come from environments where they aren't just sitting across the table from kids that look just like themselves. It really changes the actual makeup of somebody's brain to sit across the table from someone that looks different and comes from a different background. And there's a lot of research supporting that. So that, I think that was sort of the hardcore research evidence. We worked with the University of Chicago. We worked with the Century Foundation, which is an amazing organization out of Washington, D.C., to get a lot of research on that front. And so bringing that together with the community support, where less than 10% of the folks were just opposed under every circumstance, that we felt that we had a case for this merger. And in looking at the other options, they just either financially or logistically did not make sense. We looked at combining boundaries. We looked at building out Ogden to make it bigger. We looked at putting more money into Jenner. And again, we went back to research, and it shows that that is a less optimal option versus bringing kids together.
So after you did the research, I know you spoke to me, you spoke to the other aldermen, you spoke to community people, you spoke to the board, you spoke to the police, all these folks. And after you came back with your document and you gave it to CPS, right?
Well, we actually presented it to the steering committee. And
Okay.
it was really the steering committee's responsibility to bring it to CPS. I happened to sit at the table just to answer detailed questions, but it was really Seth Limmer and Randall who brought it to CPS initially.
So Reverend, when you brought it to CPS, how was that conversation? What do you think was the turning point? What do you think was the turning point for CPS to, because CPS wasn't against it and they weren't for it. They were very neutral. What do you think was the turning point to get CPS to say, okay, let's try this?
I think the turning point was when we went back and did exactly what President Clark asked us to do. We accomplished those two things, and ever since we met with Frank Clark on that first time in 2015, from 2015 to 2018, we were at every board meeting reporting out, being extremely respectful, being extremely informative in terms of the status and what was happening in the community, how community members were responding to it. When they saw the consistency of our effort, when they saw that we weren't going to give up, even when it came to the decision on the first, I think it was in 2015, at the end of 2015, and they didn't agree to put it forward as something that they were going to propose to the board, we still didn't give up. We still had hope, and I think that when they saw that we were not going to give up, and when they saw that we had the support of all of the community, and that we were asking everyone, and our table was open, we were asking everyone to come to the table, and when they saw the critical data that Next Level was able to put together, and the very transparent data that the Next Level was able to put together, you couldn't really deny the truth, because the truth was all there in the pudding of the data and the report that was presented to them. And we presented that report to the board of the CBS Board of Education, as well as we presented that report to the mayor of the city of Chicago. And I think that once the team collaborated around that report, and they saw that we were very serious about this, and they saw the benefits in terms of what it could do for the kids, that they said, you know what, we really need to look at this seriously. And right after, as soon as they believed that, they began to give the human capital to us in order for us to really begin to move forward substantially between 2015 and 2018.
So that's when they started having the different meetings
So what
at
happened,
the different schools? Go
what
ahead.
happened was in 2015, like Randall said, we didn't get the school action that we wanted to. So CPS puts all school actions that are going to happen in the next year. It's listed in a report called School Actions. It comes out December 1st. And what they did was something unique. They put us on the school action, but it was to get more community input. And so they required 3 meetings, one at Ogden, one at Jenner, and one at a neutral spot. I can't remember, but there was 3, and to get
Input.
additional community input. That CPS wanted to see that this is really coming from the community.
And at those meetings, people from both schools, both communities came and testified. You had some folks who were against, and you had a lot of people that were for. And you know, some of the dynamic things from those meetings was to hear the young people speak. Some of the young people was like, you know, like, this don't make any sense. What's the big deal?
Right.
You know, why can't we be together? I mean, and the children were so profound. I mean, so profound, and just saying that they don't, you know, in society, it's never the young people who had a problem. It's all of us adults that have the fears, and the children, they were like very okay with it. But they wanted to make sure that their school, in particular the Jenner young people, expressed the fact that they wanted to make sure that their school benefited. You know, and I don't know if any of those things were documented or not. They were?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
and they're in the report.
They're in the report because
absolutely.
my concern, my thing was if they didn't merge this, I was like, I'm going to put everything I can in Jenner and make it 10 times better than every other school in the city.
Right.
It just, you know, because because there was no reason why we shouldn't merge, right? There was no reason. And I think diversity is beneficial to everyone in the city. And quite frankly, this is a diverse community. It's probably one of the most diverse communities in the city of Chicago. So I really appreciate everything that you all did. So after we had all of those meetings, and I think like the 7th meeting, then the board, when did the board come and say, okay, let's do this?
Well, after the last meeting, the board had the CPS had to be confident enough to present it to the board, and they gained that confidence in late January, early February. Put everything.
January, February of what?
2018.
Okay.
And put everything together, and they presented it to the board and said that we believe that this school action should be moved forward. And the board had it before them. We presented at that board meeting, and the board took a recess and came back and voted unanimously to approve this school action for the two schools to be merged.
And I will say that the alderman from the 2nd Ward, Alderman Brian Hopkins, supported it, right? He supported it. Of course, he was apprehensive, early on, because he had a lot of folks, it always seemed like the people who are against something are the most vocal people,
Right,
sometimes, sure. Right? So they were all in his ear, at his office all the time, and I think at Alderman Riley's office, and quite frankly, at my office too, right? But I think I had the experience of knowing that, there's a lot of people who don't speak out, but I kind of I have a pulse of how they feel, right? Because I know the people. And he came around, his office came around, I supported it, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's a very beautiful thing. So now where we are. So now, since the board has approved it, what was the time that the board approved it?
February 28th.
All right. So there was a couple of caveats in there that the community wanted to make sure happened with this approval. Can you tell us about those things?
There were a few caveats. The main caveat was the community wanted to ensure that the cultures of both schools were retained throughout this process. That was very important, obviously, because Principal Croston came in as a very vigorous and educated educator, and changed the culture of Jenner. And he changed the culture and created this culture that he referred to as the NEST, which was an acronym for being neighborly, engaged, scholarly, and working as a team. And they wanted to retain that particular culture, as well as the culture at Ogden, which was a diverse culture, and one that was operating at a level 1 status. And so that status needed to be maintained. The culture here at Jenner needed to be maintained, and we needed to somehow honor both schools in the process, and we wanted to make sure that both schools were honored in the process, and that both schools were treated fairly. So we wanted to make sure that as these schools became, or as the school itself, as the one school merged, became an IB program, we wanted to make sure that all of the teachers at Jenner were trained in IB curriculum. We wanted to make sure that the parents at both schools had an opportunity to begin to understand and communicate with each other, collaborate with each other before the process, so that when the merger came about, there wouldn't be this kind of this tension or dead air.
Them and us.
Right, exactly. But it would be a unified front. We also wanted to make sure that the kids had that same opportunity. And Sharon Wheeler and Michelle Dreczynski were very instrumental in forming this organization called JOLT, Jenner and Ogden Learning Together, where the kids came together and they did things like art projects, the kids from Jenner would walk over to Ogden and have lunch. The kids from Ogden would walk over to Jenner, have lunch. They would go and do all different type of cultural activities throughout the city, so that when we came together, the kids knew each other, and it wasn't like, who was that, and all this dead air was in the air. And since then, it's just been phenomenal, because that has grown now, because CPS has given the human capital to this particular process to help the process even smooth out even much more.
That's fantastic. And now I know they have potlucks, you know, where the parents come together.
Right.
So a lot of the parents from over here are getting to know the parents from over there.
Right.
And they're finding out that they have so much more in common.
Exactly.
You know, and that they just people.
Exactly.
Everybody's just people, and is very great. And you know, I hear some parents tell me about, you know, they even starting to have other kids spend the night at their houses. You know, it's like these kids are becoming friends with their kids. It's like, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's just so wonderful, you know, to see how it's integrating and it's coming together. And I think over the summer, I commend a lot of the parents and all of you. I commend everyone taking forth that effort, but also commend the principals. Croston, God bless his soul. Unfortunately, during this process, we lost him. Well, we didn't lose him. Well, we did lose him, right? We lost him. He in what, 2016?
2016, right? He became ill.
He became ill, went to the hospital, stayed in the hospital for a while.
Right.
How long was he in the hospital?
He was in the hospital until
March 18th. March 18th.
For almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And then, and finally, you know, and then his time came and he passed away, but his spirit, man, his legacy, I mean, all of the things that he's done for Jenner and being so aggressive in this community of trying to get people to know that his school is okay. I mean, this guy would go to different condo associations and sell the school and let them know, bring your kids over, you know. He passed away, and you know, his for him, it was very motivating. He was a very motivating type of person. He just motivate folks to come together and get rid of their fears and start embracing each other and seeing that they can be better. You know, he was a motivator, right? So he was on that end, and I give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, this is really his legacy.
Yeah, I give him a lot of credit. I also give Bayer a lot of credit, because you know, to be a principal, to take this on from the jump, and know that you're going to have people who are afraid, who don't want it, and you have to go and deal with that.
Yeah.
You know, we have no idea what all he dealt with, right? I mean, what kind of ridicule and what kind of ridicule and humiliation and a whole bunch of things he had to deal with in order to make this happen. You know, whenever you stand up for what's right and just, you know, you always bump heads with people who are afraid. You know, and I always attribute all of this stuff to fear, right? Fear of not knowing, for one, and fear of, you know, just fear of change. And he dealt with a lot to, you know, he you know, now on Croston's behalf, you know, he had to motivate the folks over here to let them know that he's not going to let anything happen to them, that he's not going to let them be behind and all of those things. He had to deal with it from another level. I won't say he didn't have to deal with a lot, because you know, over here, you know, some of our folks over here in the Cabrini area can be very boisterous too, and very apprehensive. So they both dealt with a lot. I mean, a lot. And you know, I would say that both of them potentially had to deal with the fact that the board may not like this.
Right.
The board may not want them to do this, right? They initially, early on, they had to deal with that, which potentially was like their jobs. Their jobs on the line. Their jobs on the line to make these things happen. So you know, a lot of folks put a lot of things into this. And guys, we have like 10 minutes left. Time is going fast. I think there needs to be a documentary made on this. I just want you to know, as the alderman of this area, and I know now Jenner and Ogden's come together. One school is going to have a certain amount of grades, the other school is going to have a certain amount of grades, and Ogden High School is going to take in the kids for the high school. I am so proud to be the alderman of this. You know, I'm so proud to have this connected to my legacy that I was the alderman when they merged these schools together.
Right.
You know, I was the alderman over here when we just broke down the barriers of fear, of racism, of classism, of all of those things. I was the alderman here when we gave young people an opportunity to grow with each other and change cultures, right? Change cultures on both sides. So I'm just so proud, and I just want to let you know I'm so proud of you all. You know, every time I talk about this, I want to cry because it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, I think it's such a beautiful thing, and I know that we haven't even seen all of the beauty yet.
Right.
I know that there's so much more beauty to come with these young people as they come together and do a lot of things together at the school that's going to make not only us proud, but people around the city and the state of Illinois proud of what we've done, what you all have done here to make this thing happen. So before we go, what do you all want to say? Anything you guys want to say?
I wanted to just mention one thing, and when you asked about the conditions, one of the important things was that all the students at Jenner, no matter where they're currently living, because a lot of Jenner families were displaced, that everyone has the right to attend the new combined school, and all of the 8th graders have the choice to go directly into Ogden. So it doesn't matter, you don't have to live in this community. If you're already a student, you get to go to the newly combined school. So that was really important because Jenner has a population that comes from all over the city because
and so does Ogden.
And so does Ogden, yeah, so it's wonderful. That, and I just want to mention that on the 17th, there's going to be a mural reveal at Jenner in the cafeteria. Principal Buyer and community members did some fundraising, and local artists created a mural to honor the history of Cabrini Green and Principal Croston. So that's on the 17th from noon to 3.
Praise God, that's great. So,
And thank you. Thank you for all your support.
No problem. Well, I want to thank Near North Unity Program, NNUP, for constantly bringing people together. You know, I mean, you bring people together at the Jazz Fest. This last Jazz Fest I was at, the last one was packed. I mean, my God, it was like, what were y'all giving away, something for free? Free entertainment, right?
Right.
It was packed, and it was very diverse. You know, it's people from all walks of life. And I wish that we can get all of the Jenner parents, and one day we should just have a jazz festival just for the Jenner parents and the Ogden parents to just come and kick it and you know, party with each other. But when is that next jazz festival coming up?
The next jazz festival is next Friday, which is the date.
And that's August
10th.
August 10th is the next jazz festival at Seward Park.
At Seward Park,
on
right.
Orleans and
6
Division.
to 9 p.m.
6 to 9,
right
6 to 9 p.m. Come, you know. Bring your blankets, your cheese and crackers, your bottle of wine, you know, your girl, your boy, you know, and just sit down and chill and kick it, man. It's very enjoyable. It's enjoyable to see people, you know, embrace each other and revisit, come back together with each other and communicate from all walks of life, right?
So Autumn, I just want to thank you and thank everyone sitting here, but most importantly, thank all the people who are not here that participated in this. There are a number of people throughout the community, both sides, parents and teachers at Ogden and parents and teachers at Jenner. I want to thank Sheena Croston for her commitment to this entire process, in particular Rabbi Limmer. And his commitment to this process, and thank you for your commitment to this process, because you were an early supporter and an early believer that this could happen. And we sit here now basking in the glory of it happening, but we are also very intimately knowledgeable of the fact that this started in 2015, and this was a 3-year process, a very long and arduous process, but we were able to do something to do, as Sharon stated earlier, what's best for the kids.
Well, and also we have to thank the kids. We have to thank the kids for opening up their arms and embracing each other, and showing the parents how they should be, right? Showing the parents that, you know, hey, they're just like us. right? So I just like to thank the young people, you know, and I like to thank all of the people who are going to be going to these schools.
Right.
I like to thank them, and just the people who's moving to the neighborhood, like Michelle. You know, I mean, just to move to the neighborhood it says that you don't have any bias because you move into a diverse neighborhood. So I thank people for believing in diversity. And you know, they have statistics that say within a certain amount of time, the whole city is going to be diverse because there's a lot of intermarriages going on. There's a lot of things going on, and our society is going to change. So we might as well get on top of it right now.
That's right.
Right? So, and also, most of all, we need to thank God, you know, for planting each and everybody's heart to try to do what's right instead of what's popular or what's safe, right? But taking that next step and having a rabbi and we're having an Old Testament and a New Testament guy, a reverend and a rabbi, having the Old Testament and the New Testament on our side.
That's right.
So I just want to thank you all. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank all of you. If you live in a community and your children don't go to, if you live in the Jenner Ogden boundaries and you have your child in a private school, you're wasting your money. You need to have your children to go to the new Jenner Ogden. What is the name now?
The Jenner Ogden is what I know.
Jenner
right now.
Ogden?
Yes.
Okay, they need to go to the new Jenner Ogden school and get connected with the rest of the community, because these are the folks that's going to build the future of this neighborhood. So I'd like to thank all of you for watching Network 27. I'd like to thank my guests, Michelle Dreczynski, Sharon Wheeler, I'm sorry, Suzanne Campion. That's just okay. You skipped the middle one, right? And Reverend Randall Blakey. We'd like to thank all of you for coming on. Thank you for all your involvement in the community. Thank you for consistently and constantly bringing people together in our neighborhood, from the children to the adults. And God bless you all. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching Network 27. And thank everyone who helped us to put the show together. We see you next month. Come party with me. Come party with me at my 55th birthday. We're going to be stepping and dancing, and we're going to have house music and all of those things. Come have a good time. But you know, I'm letting you know, if you don't want to dance, don't come to my party, okay? All right. Thank you. Take care. God bless.